Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another edition to CMB's Dallas Political Education class, where we will be going over We Are Our Own Liberators with Jalil Muntaqim. And in this class, we're going to be going over the programs for the National Strategy for the Liberation of the African Nation, or FROLINA.
Well, thank you for that brief and salient introduction. The work that we're doing is cadre building, right? And it's important for us to understand that this book, for the most part, is DIY, do it yourself, kind of cadre building organizational treaty. It provides you with all the necessary information that you will require of you studying in a collective, and then out of that collective develop a cadre. Because everybody would be on the same page. They'd be thinking in like-minded. They'd be concentrating on the goals and objectives as put forth by this writing, and particularly in regards to the Front for the Liberation of the African Nation. The question was asked, what was my thought processes in terms of building this out? And I think on page, I don't know what page you guys on, but on page 100, I think that thought process is well established in that first paragraph, where I said I have taken the initiative to write this proposal and treaty for our numbers and revolutionary nationals to build upon, for us to unite our forces under a single program and national strategy. Since the destruction of the Black Panther Party, our movement has fallen into the hands of passive resistance, losing its vitality, momentum, and revolutionary fervor. It is now necessary to rekindle the spirit of militant resistance and rebuild our nationalist front, comprising the needed national organization and programs that will ensure not only our survival, but also the inevitable victory in establishing the Republic of North Africa in the Western Hemisphere. So that's my motivation, right? That's the reason why this book was written. There's the reason why the Front for the Liberation of the African Nation was written, right? Was thought about and written. And then I go on to say that this document is presented for Revolutionary Nationals to discuss and seek the means and methods to create conditions to manifest a national strategy for the now. All right, so I cannot tell you how to do it in your locale, right? Because it has to be organized according to the socioeconomic and political conditions in those localities. And we know that in different areas, there'll be different fight backs, certain forms of resistance. And so we must be able to apply this according to the manifest realities that people are confronting. Of course, I say, this is my conception of what needs to be done based on varied discussion amongst comrades and basic analysis of the general situation of opportunism, liberalism, and sectarianism affecting our overall struggle. Therefore, this document is not a conclusive or inclusive of all needs in struggle. Rather, it seeks to forge the basis to establish a durable foundation by which we may unite our talents and resources to build FROLINA. So FROLINA is basically an instrument where we unite our forces, we unite our talent, we unite our skills, we unite those who believe themselves and know themselves to be new Africans, and recognize that the goal and objective ultimately is to liberate the land. Hence, this document is offered as a pivot to create a needed center of gravity. We need to have a center of gravity where people can have a basis for a foundation where they can grow from. Okay, if not, everything's gonna be up in the air. There's no center of gravity from which we can unite forces, like a magnet, for instance, would unite forces, bring certain elements together. Okay, and so this is necessary for have a center of gravity, or at least a foundation, which we can rally our forces and move forward in unity and struggle. Based on the foregoing, I'm requesting the receiving this document who are able to make copies and redistribute to those who believe might be interested in building FROLINA. Furthermore, I'm requesting all authentic revolutionary nationals do the following upon review of this document. And I laid out what I'm asking them to do, right? Particularly submit proposals and ideas that will give structure to the goal and the objective of FROLINA, Front for the Liberation of the African Nation. Hopefully soon, we will be issuing a major document calling for the building of FROLINA that will be laying out some very profound understanding of the struggle that we are moving, that we are building towards. So that is for hopefully maybe by the end of this year, early next year, that document will be sent out and be distributed across the country. Those who want to be part of FROLINA will be able to read the document, understand the document, discuss the document, and then also be able to try to implement what is projected in the document. So submitting proposals to strengthen the basis of the bill for that organizational structure, ideological format, and political program. So that's what we're going to be doing with the document that we're going to be sending out. To establish one of cadres, right, to build one of the programs of decolonization. Okay, we need to build these programs. We need to build these decolonization programs in order to have a relationship with our people, with the oppressed people, and with our impoverished people. And I'm finding all across this country that the majority of Black people, brown people, indigenous people in the cities are impoverished, right? And that's by policy, that's by design, that's purposeful, that's intentional, to keep this population, this demographic population in impoverished conditions, okay? So that they can be used as cannon fodder and can be used as means for super exploitation, right, of their labor, of their worth, of their value, okay? And it's how white supremacy functions, how white supremacy thinks in terms of their relationship to people of color. Okay. And three, discuss the document with others and contribute financially, materially, and personally to the national strategy for the. That last point is very extremely important, particularly in regards to issues of finances. One of the things that we're doing right now is trying to figure out some way to develop some revenue streams for our comrades, particularly our elders. We have Baba Bilal, we have Baba Daruba, we have Baba Sundiata, we have several others who are becoming infirm, right, as a result of their age and illnesses. And we have no way of ensuring that they are being taken care of. Okay, you know, Black Panther Party, Black Liberation Army. We ain't got no veterans pension fund. You know what I mean? We don't have no means from which we have Social Security, particularly for those who are political prisoners, spend 30, 40, 50 years in prison. Right? I don't have Social Security. They say that I didn't work enough, you know, to have points for Social Security. So in this instance, I had to figure out ways how to develop the means for which I can survive, you know, as I grow older and become elderly, right, become a senior, okay, in that respects. And so for us, building Frontline will have to create conditions where we have an economic foundation to not only deal with the issues of our programs, right, but also the issues that are not necessarily programmatic, but are based upon the needs of our community, particularly our revolutionary nationalists, our elders, right? The need of our community and how we're going to sustain their existence in a comfortable way by virtue of building the movement. Okay, and so that's important. Um, on page 101, right? And I make the prerequisites of becoming a member of 49. And I lay out what those prerequisites are. Okay, if you're going to become a member of 49, if you're going to organize as a cadre, a 49 cadre, right, it's required that you be adherent to these prerequisites, that you internalize this. This is your breath. This is your breath. Your inhale and your exhale will be these principles and concepts that we move forward. The recognition of existence of a new African nation as an oppressed nation within the colonial government of the United States and America Western Hemisphere. We have to confirm within ourselves that we are an oppressed nation within the oppressor nation. Okay, we are decentralized at this point in time because we don't have control of the resources or can have control of the land, right? But within the dynamics of what constitutes a nation, and if you read that back in the what I call the domestic decolonization, where I put all the international law in that argument, it tells you what it constitutes a nation, right? The ethos of the language, their experiences, their common experiences, and their culture, right, will constitute a nation. And so for us, it's imperative that we begin to understand that we are, in fact, a nation within a nation. Number two, right, that the Republic of New Africa is the name of the government of the New African nation. Right, that's what's been established. We should be holding that ideal of the Republic of New Africa until the people decide to change that, as subject to our forming our sovereignty. Right. Three, accepts New African Declaration of Independence and creed and code of emotion. Right. That's important because those are the foundations that lead us into a constitution of governing. Right. The foundation for which we pledge allegiance to. Right. Are the Declaration of Independence, the creed, and the code of emotion. Now, these may change. This may change in time. The language may be stilted from when it was first written back in the 1960s, all right, late 1960s. And so there has been many changes that's going on both nationally and internationally that may have impact on the Declaration of Independence Code and the Code of Emotion, right, to strengthen it and make it more palatable to the governing situation that we are confronted today. So, but nonetheless, although the language may change inside of it, the idea of the Declaration of Independence and the code and the creed and code must be adhered to, okay, for fully line. Recognize the support of New African People's Liberation Army, right, as opposed to as the armed front of the New African nation, right? That's one of the things we're going to build. Remember in the Black Panther Party rule number 6 was that no Black Panther Party can join any underground organization except for the Black Liberation Army, right? When the Black Panther Party came into existence, they had rule number 6, knowing that at some point in time, there have to be the necessity for engaging in urban warfare, right? That it would be a necessity to engage in guerrilla warfare, the necessity to engage in armed struggle. And that's the reason why in the Black Panther Party, and rule number 6 says that Huey and Bobby, when they put it together, they knew at some point it would be necessary to have a Black Liberation Army. Very similarly, but in terms of building Folinon, right, the Front for Liberation of the African Nation, we have to come to the conclusion that we're going to have to build our own army, our own self-defense force, right, and in order to win this war. And therefore, we are identifying that army as the New African People's Liberation Army, okay, NAPLA, right? And therefore, it's clear that who you are fighting for and what you're fighting for, all right? That you identify yourselves as New African and you prepare to engage in struggle on the basis of that understanding. All right. 5, support the network of manifesting the national strategy 409 as a legitimate representative of the Front for African Independence movement and work to support all groups in the alliance to 409. Again, 409 is a front. It's not a party. It's not a committee. It's not a coalition. It's a front, right? And it's a front comprising of various other organizations who also identify themselves as New African and working for liberation of and independence of Kush, of New Africa. And so for us, in building forward, we will begin as a cadre, right? But each of the cadre not only to deal with building decolonization committees, but they also to work with other organizations who are also New Africans and lend them to become part of the front, right? Encourage them to become part of the front, right? So that we can break down this idea what I talked about earlier about sectarianism, opportunism, and liberalism, right? That's how we combat that, by uniting our forces and being more cooperative in building a national strategy or a national agenda and determination in movement building. And so for these cadres, right, they will be going to the other organizations, introducing themselves as cadre Folinon and inviting them to become part of the front. All right, 6. Must be an anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist, anti-racist, fascist, pro-national independence, and willing to participate in the class and national liberation struggle for land, Kush, and social democracy. Okay, if you're not one of these, then you ain't no need you being around us, period. All right, if you're not an anti-capitalist, you ain't anti-imperialist, you ain't anti-racist, fascist, right? You ain't anti-sexism hegemony, right? Then you should not be faking the funk, like you're down with this and you ain't. All right. And so for me, you have to declare, you should need to declare yourself as being anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, anti-racist, fascist, and pro-national liberation and independence. 7, believe in that faith in the creative ingenuity and spiritual quality and humanity of New African people and the historical, cultural, socioeconomic, and political productivity of our struggle for national independence. And that particular number 7 equals an equivalent to the question of the 4-letter word love. If you ain't got love for your people, right? Undying, unquestionable love for your people, There's no way in the hell you're going to have faith in our creative ingenuity, spirituality, quality, and humanity as New African people, not only from a historical, cultural, or socioeconomic or political conditions from which we can actually, in fact, free ourselves and be productive nation of people, right? So, and that tantamount to love. If you don't believe that you can do those type of things, then you can't tell me you got love for us. It's not. You can't have one and half another and say that we are incapable of liberating ourselves, or incapable of being productive, or incapable of having a spiritual quality and humanity that can be applauded around the world. It should be lauded around the world, as it is on many other levels that we don't even give credence to, like the culture, the African culture, or the new African culture that's permeated the entire world, right? And but we're not getting a credit for our ingenuity and creativity or our own spirituality in that regard. Uh, and so number 7 is crucial, right? And I just quantify and qualify it under the concept of love. If you ain't got love for our people, then you can't believe number 7. Okay. And nationally, it's based upon 3-phase theory for national independence and a 10-point platform theory, organizational programs, and decolonization. And so I try to lay down all the final concepts, what it means to build an organization, particularly a front, and utilize all resources what we have, and knowing that we'll be engaging in class struggle, or class struggle for national unity. And again, I have to reiterate this, and I will do so continuously. This is our hardest part of our struggle, class struggle for national unity. It's the hardest. It's going to be the longest and the hardest, right? Because we have so many people we have to decolonize in their thinking. We have to raise so many people in their consciousness to think of themselves as being free, liberated, and emancipated, to become abolitionists, all right? That we are so divided by the system of capitalist imperialism and culturally as a result of how they have divided us between regards to our own ethnic group, right? That we have. These are the kind of challenges that we have. You know, I was talking to a couple of brothers the other day, and one of the brothers said, "Man, I'm done. I'm tired, man. I don't see us moving forward. Right? People are not coming to the meetings. They're not being productive. All right? They're not being accountable, and et cetera, et cetera." And I told them, I said, "Listen, this is the hardest part of our struggle. This is the hardest part, all right? To get people to understand that our life, our survival is based upon struggle, right? And our victory is based upon unity, right? If we don't have unity, we're not gonna win. That's the bottom line, okay? Because they are unified in their capacity and their desire to rid us off this planet, okay? We have to know that. They are they have been explicit. Okay, we just haven't read the fine-tuned line. Okay, but they have been explicit. They have no desire to have a relationship with Black people, African people in this country that is on equal par with them. Okay, and if we expect that to happen by some magical abracadabra, right, then we're gonna be sorely delusional. We are indeed delusional, and so for us to believe that the system of white supremacy is going to collapse and everything is going to be uh, peachy keen and hunky dory, as a result of the collapse of white supremacy, then I would suggest that you need to go see a therapist, okay? Because you're delusional. Uh, these people will have to be uh, eliminated, okay? Or they're going to eliminate us, okay? And so for us, our struggle, our campaign, our determination is to not only survive this genocide uh, that's going to proliferate not only in Gaza, but has been our experience in this country for the last 450 years, and particularly in the last 60 years, 70 years, where they have doubled down right, in terms of eliminating us in this country with mass incarceration, degrees of state-sponsored violence, environmental pollution in our community, health inequities where we can't get proper health care that we need. Right now, I'm working on a bill here in Rochester dealing with infant mortality. Rochester has 3 times the level of infant mortality than the national average. We're losing babies. We're losing babies. We lose babies at the front end, and then they're killing each other on the back end. Okay, it's this is the kind of campaigns that we should be organizing in our community, particularly in terms of dealing with the issues of poverty. That's why the decolonization programs are so important because that's what they address. They address the conditions of poverty in our community and they try to move people towards greater unity and cooperation with one another. All right, so the rest of this chapter it deals with the historical determinants that I had offered at the time of this writing, and it basically I allude to 4 epochs, right? That really changed the conditions and the forward momentum of our struggle. I'm not going to read this whole thing. You guys can read that. The 4 epochs. Naturally, at this point in time, I think there's a fifth one. We are entering a fifth epoch after. The murder of Michael Brown, right? After the murder of Michael Brown, that was fundamental to reasserting, right, a Black consciousness, reasserting the idea of value and love for Black people. Although it got co-opted as part of the government, we're always going to try to diminish our movements, right? Ideologically, politically, and socially, and co-opted or culturally, right? We can expect that of them. That's what they've been doing since day one, right? And so this epoch that we're in, what I call the fifth epoch, right? This epoch of this the epoch of right? Of freeing our mind, right? It's extremely important that we understand it. And knowing that we are going to build a new nation, right? Refutation, page 109, refutation of class perspective, right? Refutation of Black capitalism. There has been those who will try to ensure that we can continue to be free and still be capitalists, all right? Uh, Richard Nixon was one who really proposed, President Richard Nixon really proposed the idea of Black capitalism, or at least promoted it to the extent that it was able to create class division, broader class divisions within the nation, right? Because at one time, the businessman and the garbage man used to like next door, and the postman used to like next door to each other in our communities. All right, we had a holistic community where all of our people, for the most part, lived in the same community, no matter their skills or their profession. Right? They kept it that way, and we strived as a result of that. But then, after this Black capitalism and this idea of integration, unfortunately, that Dr. King was now able to reverse before he got murdered, right? And assimilationist has divided us to the point where now these divisions have become antagonistic, right, in many respects, and so competitive that we find ourselves so divided that there's no way that many of us don't even look that there's a possibility of us really coming together again. All right, so that book, so it is from the 4 epochs to the 3-phase theory. I think we already discussed the 3-phase theory. Keep in mind again that the class struggle for national unity is the most important, longest part of our struggle. Longest part, hardest part, class struggle. We're gonna be engaged in class struggle for at least the next 3 or 4 more years, right? And a lot of it going to depend upon the social conditions, to what degree they will begin to increase the number of our deaths, right, killing us, right? Whether legally, like the death penalty, what they did to a Khalifa, Imam Khalifa, or state-sanctioned murders as they do in the streets every day across this country, right? And so when that begins to increase, and there is no no justification, even minimally think of a justification for the number of deaths we're going to suffer. I think that's going to be a point in time where we began to grow in greater unity and greater cooperation. We'll be able to call out our so-called leaders, right, and let them know that we are not feeling this energy of death and destruction in our community. This class struggle is the hardest part. And I break it down in the various classes. Uh, um, and on page 117, right? Uh, I says here, I said, thus, class struggle for national unity must begin by understanding the aspects of the particular contradiction existing between two contending forces within a neo-colony. What are the two contending forces? And how these forces in unity and struggle dialectically attract and repel one another politically, and determine the basis of this relationship with the oppressed African people in building and sustaining their aspiration to fight for independence. Here it can be said that the struggle must commence by drawing a line of demarcation between program and objectives of the two forces in relationship to the oppressed African masses. Right? What are those two forces? The two forces are the capitalist class, right, and the classes for national liberation and socialism, right, for the most part. Okay, and so those two contradictions, those two classes, must be understood as as I say here, the particular contradiction, not the principal contradiction. The principal contradiction is between our nation and the oppressed and the colonized oppressor, right? That's the principal contradiction, right? And but the particular to those principal contradictions is the division within the new African nation itself. Okay, so it's important that we draw a demarcation line between what we call friend and foe, friend and foe. Either you're with the movement or you're not with the movement, right? But we have to ensure that people take a side, right? They can't be standing on the fence, okay, waffling as to whether they want to be with America or whether they want to be with New Africa, okay? And so that demarcation line has to be drawn. I'll go on to say this line of demarcation must be forged through ideological and political struggle. We must engage the petty bourgeoisie and the bourgeoisie. We must engage the proletariat, the lumpen proletariat, the brothers on the block, right? We have to engage them, right? We have to show them what's really the reality of our situation. You know, we have been deluded to a point where up looks down and down looks up, you know. And so we have to get a new balance and our understanding. And much of that is based upon the history of this nation and the history of our relationship to this nation, to this corporate entity that they call the United States. So that's important. So we have to understand that history. I did a PowerPoint and I sent that to a bunch of y'all. Hopefully y'all seen it. Seen that PowerPoint presentation I did in Oakland last May. Did y'all see that? No answer.
Yeah.
I don't think we saw it.
No? All right, listen, I'm gonna pull it up and I'll put it in the chat. All right.
All right.
I I did not bite my tongue, okay, in that presentation. And for the most part, I think I laid down um a broader understanding of our struggle and what we'll be engaging in. Muntaqim. Well, let me put the off here first. Okay. Sense of truth. Oh, that's not it. Dang. All right, now let's go. We're gonna go chat. Yeah, chat. Um, page. Uh, Okay, here we go. There you go. All right. So
Got it.
when you get a chance, it's about 2 hours long. Okay, I went in. Okay, so and then if you got any questions about what has been shared in that, you can come back with me and we can talk about it. But in the meantime, I ask that you share this on your listserv and amongst others as well for even more discussion. But I'll go on to say here in the book, this line of demarcation must be forced through ideological political struggle as well as socioeconomic programs addressing the concrete realities of oppressed disenfranchisement, particularly issues of poverty. And where the forces of integration fight for civil rights, the forces for independence must fight for civil rights as the minimum objective, right, to attain within the process of building towards complete emancipation, right, complete freedom, right, to be divorced from the system itself. And that's why the People's Senate is one that means to which we will build that foundation. Right. In so doing, the forces of independence must at times call on the forces of integration to do more, to fight harder, to make greater demands on the colonial government. And that's why I'm saying we have to engage in class struggle, because we have to demand of these Negroes, right? They need to grow, right? These Negroes that need to grow. We have to demand that they do more, right? That they stop capitulating and stop compromising and stop selling out. Okay, and so challenging the petty bourgeoisie, challenging these individuals, whether it be a city council member or mayors or governors or even police chiefs, right? They got to be challenged. And that's part of our class struggle. And we need to do so in a way that we're educating the broader population of why these individuals are being challenged, why they're being called upon to do more, to be more fair, right, more equitable in their treatment and the allocation of resources in our community. To fight harder, greater, okay, and when they fail to condemn them for national betrayal, class collaboration, and collusion with the enemy government. They have to be called out. Call them sellout. Call them hanky-head Negroes. Whatever you want to, demean them because they are much in the destruction of our people by failing to be responsible and accountable representatives of who we are. But not only that, they scarred the face of Black people, right? Like this idiot down in New York City now, right? Mayor Adams, he's under indictment. Okay, and so what that lends to? That lends to discouraging our people who still believe in this electoral process, right? And it allows white folks to continue to condemn that Black people cannot be leaders. All right, you're creating a stereotypical illusion, right? That Black leaders are going to be corrupt. And as much as white folks are always corrupt, right? And from day one, right? But they are lending to conditioning us, right, to not be able to take stock or believe that we can have leaders in not only in the system but outside the system. Okay, so they need to be condemned. All right. Will either capitulate or show the press masters their true political nature, bootlicking lackeys, and antagonize the principal contradiction. And by doing so, we antagonize the principal contradiction existing between the neo-colony and the colonial government. So basically, we're saying that they cannot represent us. Okay. They do not represent us. They represent you. Okay. And your oppressive conditions against us. And so therefore, when we come to that point, then we're not only just dealing with the particularity of the contradiction within the new African nation, but we're dealing with the principal contradiction between the oppressed and the oppressor. Okay. And so, and during that process, this is the point in which class struggle for national unity broadens and strengthens the capacity of revolutionary nations to organize and mobilize the oppressed African masses to support the fight for national liberation and independence. Okay. So, and I go on to explain where we are today in this condition. And right now, the integrationist has the upper hand. Okay, they have the resources to create and espouse and propagate the narrative, right? That everything's going to be all right in the by and by. All right, or that give them a chance, and they'll set you free. You know, by the electoral process. This whole idea that the electoral process is going to free Black people is so disingenuous. Okay, once people really understand the nature of the system and the nature of the enemy, right? To what extent they were willing and able to engage in genocide. Uh, you know, and so for us to believe in the prospects of integrating and assimilating into this system is the height of delusion. Uh, what it is it's the trauma, right, of a people who have been surviving the system of white supremacy for 150 years and are so traumatized that they don't even know their name, their original names, all right, their original culture, the original language, all right, their religion, their original religions. Uh, uh, you know, they have created a people who don't have a historical land-based foundation. Although we proclaim to be African, right? And that's the reason why many people who go to Africa have a spiritual experience, right? Because they touch base to home, what is really home, right? And for us, for many here in this country, when some of us live outside the land, live outside the territory for a number of years. When they return, if they have lived there from the beginning, I have not, right? But have lived there from the beginning. When they return, they feel that they return back to home, right? The 5 states are our ancestral homeland. That's why it's called the Black Belt. It continues to be the Black Belt. The majority of Black people in this country still live in South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. Okay. So that's our ancestral homeland. And what we have to do, we have to take control of it and use the resources for our best interest. And so on page 119, right, I said, at first, the class struggle may appear to be divisive, but only until lines of demarcation, I already made mention that, lines of demarcation has been drawn between two contending forces and directions in the neo-colonial struggle for self-determination and independence. Thereby, class struggle for national unity becomes an essential part of the liberation movement, a fight for Black community control, in part in which particularities of the contradiction of class divisions within the neo-colony becomes a motivating factor by which the principal contradiction between the neo-colony and the colonial government becomes acute and antagonistic, and separation independence becomes the ultimate goal to attain the revolutionary nationalist struggle between the nationally oppressed and the national oppressor. Okay, so I think that this understanding is about as clear and cut as you can possibly get it. Uh, uh, we have a national enemy, right? And they are supported by our deluded Africans in this country who are quote unquote assimilationists and integrationists. Many of those, I give you another example. The fraternities and sororities that we have in this country, right? The columns of the Greeks, right? What kind of mentality, would allow yourself to be allegiance to a organization, right, that espoused Greek mythology as its foundation? You know, and knowing that the Greeks were taught by the Kemetic, right, by the Egyptians. That's called cognitive dissonance. When you know something is in error, right, but you let it go along anyway, right? That your eyes, you don't want to believe what your eyes see, or you don't want to believe what your mind is telling you, Okay. And so we have and some of those people have resources. You know, they've integrated into the fabric of this capitalist octopus in certain levels or another. All right, or they have the network of resources as a result. But they are not revolutionaries. They're not moving in towards the goals and objectives of national liberation and independence, right? They're moving to sustain the system as it is. Okay. And the system cannot exist without a class of individuals, class of people who are being super exploited. All right. It doesn't work. You cannot have equitable distribution of wealth and have capitalism. You can't. You know, and I often tell people as you read it, you see in that presentation, right? We have 744 billionaires in this country, right? With the accumulated wealth of all the wealth of Western Europe. All the wealth of Western Europe in the hands of 744 billionaires, right? And a population of 330 million. Okay. So you cannot tell me that this system is based upon equitable distribution of wealth when they're hoarding all the wealth and we're fighting for the crumbs, you know, off their table. All right. We don't live in democracy, we live in a plutocracy. The rich rules. All right. And rest assured, my brothers and sisters, right, that some of them billionaires are supporting the white supremacists. Okay. They're providing resources to the white supremacists as they're getting organized. Have you seen the recent study by the FBI on white supremacists organizing in this country? Have y'all seen that?
No.
No, you have not. All right, let me see if I can find it so I can get it to you. Because that is something else that we need to be concerned about.
I also want to take time too, if anybody has any questions. We want to take at least I think 10 minutes before the end to ask those questions.
Yeah, 2024.
You said we can ask questions now, or
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's open up the question forum for anybody who asks them.
okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Brother Gila,
yes,
I had a
brother.
question
Uh-huh.
based on something that I had saw, and I thought it was an interesting thing, especially when we talk about class struggle and what that would mean as far as confrontation with the middle class and the small business owners. And it was suggested that the working class and the lower middle class can unite or have this this front based upon universal basic income. And I thought about that, and the point that they were making was kind of like, small business owners are anti-big business, but at the same time anti-communist, anti-labor union and all this. So it kind of leaves them in this stuck, isolated position. But at the same time, they're also in a vulnerable position, just like the working class. So for them to be able to unite with the workers and fight for this universal basic income, that can kind of be a way of kind of possibly awakening their class consciousness. Um, because I would just like to know your thoughts on that.
Okay. Um, Let me see if I understand your question. You're saying that the lower classes and the lower middle class and the lower classes will unite in terms of their understanding of the struggle they engaged in. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and the the person that brought up the idea was saying like universal basic income can be a possibility, that can be an opening as far as getting the lower middle class not to aspire to big business and bourgeois ideals, but to identify their current situation and also identify with the working class struggle as well.
Okay, okay. I'm for the most part, I am in agreement. Uh, hmm. let me put it this way, that's tactical, not strategic, okay? In terms of organizing, where you can bring some degree of commonality and understanding of our situation, our socioeconomic situation, and how we can move forward. So we'll use universal uh, salaries or whatever case may be, right, as a basis from which we can begin to have this kind of discussion and then unite on understanding that wealth distribution is unequal, okay? But then let's move from that to owners of the means of production, okay? For as long as people continue to be wage laborers, right, laboring for wages, you see what I'm saying? And not necessarily having control of the means of production and profiting or receiving their finance being financed by virtue of their ownership of the means of production, right? Then naturally the wealth will continue to rise up to those who own the means of production. Okay, so you can have universal wages, right? But if you ain't changed the nature of the system, you know what I'm saying? That's an easy fix, right? The system will grant that, okay? Uh, if necessary, if they grant that as an example, let's say they give everybody $100 an hour wage, $100 an hour wage. Well, you know what's going to happen? The cost of bread is going to go to $200. You see what I'm saying? Because they own the means of production. And so for them to give us $100, they have to figure out ways how they're going to continue to profit. All right. And by doing so, by continuing to profit, that means they're going to figure out ways how to inflate, right, the prices of everything good, everyday goods. See, and that's how the system works. So, but tactically, right, to broaden that discussion and get to the point where they understand that the ultimate goal is control of the means of production, and not so much as begging for a higher wage, right, or fighting for a higher wage and maintaining the system, right? See, that doesn't necessarily work. Okay. But again, like I said, as a tactical initiative to raise our level of consciousness to a point where we're even discussing a universal salary, right? It will lend to ultimate discussion of controlling the means of production, right? So tactically, I can see it, but in terms of ending our the war, no, that's not going to happen. So it has some value in terms of tactically. Strategically, it's a delusion. Okay.
Stating it not necessarily like as an end, but like you said, like a means to an end. Like it's not stopping at just an acknowledgement of just the workers and all that. But like you said, it should be able to lead to that redistribute, not just the redistribute. Excuse me, the redistribution of wealth. Excuse me. But like you said, the land and all that as well. But thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, my brother.
Any other questions?
Any more questions?
Okay. I feel like I want to ask, or do you have any like thoughts on, I want to say a sense of hopelessness? I know you just kind of spoke about it, but like when people do say, "Man, I done went to the meetings and black folks ain't showing up," or
Yeah.
what are we doing? Like, do we spend like frustration? Can you speak towards frustration of the cadre?
Can I speak to it? Yeah, I can speak to it. I can speak to it for a very personal level. Every time I was in prison, well, I felt that, you know. I think for the first, maybe not the first, but after I've been in 5 years, I've been in 5 years, people, who's Jalil? You know what I mean? And I could have been discouraged, but you know what I did? I started writing, started doing my research, started preparing, right? I understand that the struggle has ebbs and flows, all right? We have rises and high tides and low tides. Okay, that's part of our struggle. And so what we have to do and what our ancestors did, the shoulders that we are standing upon, be resilient, okay? And don't give up. I was talking to a comrade yesterday, and he was talking about falling back, you know? And I said, listen, man, you ain't got no choice. You got no choice in this matter, right? Because you know, all right, and because you know, you have a responsibility with that knowledge. Okay. Now, falling back for a period of time, no problem. Self-healing is extremely important. Okay. And sometimes we get overwhelmed. All right. I keep telling people that my plate is full, right? And then on the other side I'm telling myself I gotta get a bigger plate. You see what I'm saying? So rather than saying I got to decrease my plate size, right? I'm thinking I got to get a bigger plate. All right, so I get this work done, all right, as best as I possibly can. So, uh, being burnout, that's one thing we want to charge against. If you have not read, that's right, having a balance. It's hard. Well, if you have not read Sister Bukhari's The War Before, right, she talks about the necessity for us to take a step back and do some healing, you know? And so I don't fret people when they're up and up, being up front and saying, yo, bruh, or yo, sis, I'm overwhelmed, you know? I gotta take a break. All right, give me a couple of weeks, or give me a couple of months, okay? So I can unwind my head. Okay. Now, like I told a brother there, I said, now when you do that, right, make sure you groom somebody to pick up the slack, right? you know. So I ain't afraid. You got to take it back and take a step back. Cool. Have somebody take a step forward. Okay. And explain to them why you got to take a step back and why it's a necessity for them to take a step forward, so we don't lose momentum, right, in the struggle. Right. And that's why it's always important for us to be recruiting and training others. Right. Building these cadres. Right. Because we're not going all of us not gonna make it to the end. Okay. Some of us gonna fall to the wayside. We get burned out, you know. But we have to, as Sister said, we have to find that balance. All right. And not being overwhelmed. And we must be having the wherewithal to be able to check yourself. If I take another step, I'm a fail, y'all. Right. And I don't want to fail y'all. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a respite, right? I'm gonna step back for a few. Okay. My brother here, he's gonna take up the mantle from here going forward, right? And we will continue to the momentum, right? But I gotta take a rest. Okay. And being upfront like that, people can respect that. Okay. Uh, but you have to know your strength and your weaknesses. Okay, as an individual and also as a collective. Okay, how much can you tolerate? How resilient are you? Okay, it's important for us to know yourself. As the Kemetic saying, know yourself and know your enemy. No, as Sun Tzu said, know yourself, know yourself, know your enemy, 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. Right? Understand those principles. Right? And the Kemet says, know thyself. Okay. Nuk punuk, know thyself in the Kemetic language. And so we have to be able to have that kind of serious talk within ourselves, but also amongst your comrades. Okay. We need to check each other. Hey, you doing all right? I called a brother the other day. You know, I said, hey man, I ain't heard from you in a minute, man. You all right, man? What's going on? You know, and we have to check on each other on that level. But yeah, we have to engage in class struggle for national unity, and without that, we really don't have a movement, we don't have a struggle. So we have the three-phase theory. We already went over that three-phase theory, right? And then naturally, decolonization programs, the national strategy, our ability decolonization program is very important. Oh, let me find that. Damn, I didn't find that article.
Well, let's save that for our next class, and then we could also we'll take your video home for some homework for next class. We'll watch, we'll, we'll watch the
Okay.
video. Matter of fact,
Okay.
this is
FBI 2024.
Counterintelligence.
so we'll make sure to watch this video for those watching at home too, or watching the video at a later date. You can look this up on YouTube, and we'll come back for this next class.
All right, that's beautiful, bro. That's beautiful.
Right. With that being said, that's a good way to end.
All right, I couldn't find it, but you guys can go. You can go to 2024 FBI study of white supremacy, right? White extremists, and they have a program that they're using to build support, right, across the country. Okay, so it's they getting ready, they're preparing, right? They call it if you go out there and commit suicide, killing up a bunch of black people, they're gonna call you a saint. You be heralded as a saint. Yeah, they ain't playing no game. No, we're not ready. We better get ready though. Oh, here it is. Oh, that's 2023 hate crimes. No, that's not it. Anyway, if I find it, I'll send it to you, Asaya. All right, you can share
All right.
with the brothers. All right.
All
Okay.
right.
I hope that we got something out of this. I know I did. All right. Going every time I read this, I say, damn, I wrote that. You know, so yeah. But yeah. So listen, do you guys have a way that you guys close out? No? Okay.
No.
Shep, Comrade Shep, you know, in all of his classes and all the things, he asked everybody to come off mute. Everybody come off mute. Right?
I thought you usually close it by telling us you need to get your vittles, man. I thought that's been the ongoing thing, man.
That is do what?
I thought that was the ongoing thing. I thought that was what we're gonna keep doing. You ended by saying you gotta get your vittles.
You gotta get my vittles. Well, that's true too. I am going to go there and fix me some plantains, go fry me up some plantains and some rice and shrimp. And yeah, I'm going to eat me a little something. But no, what we say is, what's the call?
Free them all.
Free them all. Come on now, come on, y'all. Get up there, open up. Let me hear you say this. What's the call?
Free them all.
Free them all.
What's the call?
Free them all.
Free them all.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, brothers. Assalamu alaikum, peace, sisters and brothers. Y'all be
Alaikum
safe
salam.
out there.
Alaikum salam.
As they say,
Thank you, Brother Jalil.
yeah, keep your six. Watch your six. All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right.